Hi guys, Selena Walker here, naturopath and nutritionist living deep in nature here at Ysbryd y Coed, here to talk to you about creating a healthy body, healthy mind and healthy planet. And today's video has been inspired by being trolled. So any of you out there that, shine your light into the world, write a blog, just put yourself out there, you would have experienced being trolled at some point. And what do I mean by that? Well, what I mean is a keyboard warrior coming along, typing something quite nasty and having a go at you, hiding behind their keyboard. So I done a post on Instagram. It wasn't even related really to me living an off-grid life. It was more about how I felt really blessed that years ago I had an autoimmune disease and this was just a dream, a picture, and now I'm actually healed from my autoimmune disease. I have the energy to live this kind of life. And I got trolled. And as David Goggins, any of you that followed David Goggins, a shit talker, which is what he calls them, came at me and was having a go at me for saying that I live off-grid. And was saying that I'm ashamed of the movement, and it was just basically having a go at me. And I had to stop myself from being that instant keyboard warrior back. But I just sat with it and thought, that's interesting. And then it made me think, why do I live off-grid? Because he was assuming, this person, that because I said that I had a telephone and he was having a go at me because I was putting myself out there on the internet and how that's not living off-grid. And I didn't know there was any rules about living off-grid, but I could see where he was coming from because he felt really strongly, even though he wasn't doing it, I assume, but he felt really strongly that living off-grid is all about getting away from the system, not having a bank account and not being part of the system. And I thought, wow, that's totally not why I'm living off-grid. And it's amazing how people make assumptions without asking you questions first, without being inquiring. So I thought, well, that's really made me think about why I'm living off-grid. So I'm going to do a video because lots of you ask me about my life, and I'm going to turn this around and turn it into something positive because it's really made me think about why I live off-grid. Well, as I said to that guy really openly, we're not 100% off-grid because we do have a phone line and we do have a broadband line, mainly because I use the internet for my business. And we have a phone line for family emergencies. A couple of years ago, when my dad died suddenly, having the phone line then would have been such a blessing. And after that, I really knew we needed to do that, even if it did mean digging a 200-metre trench through our land to bury it. I just knew we needed that. I needed that connection with my family. I needed to be able to get a hold of me instantly in an emergency. So I felt really good about that decision, because living off-grid to me is so nothing to do with stepping out of the system. It's nothing to do with fighting the system. To me, living off-grid is about connecting to the biggest system of all, the elements, the earth. We've got these solar panels. All our electricity comes from these solar panels. This is our electricity. So when the sun is shining, I get really excited because we have electricity and I can do things such as make a smoothie on my Nutri Ninja. We've got rainwater harvesting set up and we're going to be setting even more of that up. So when it rains, we get really joyous because suddenly we've got rainwater and we haven't got to worry about water anymore. Friends of mine, they've got wind power and they feel the same. When it's windy, they've got lots of power that way. So for me, it's about my life being intertwined with the elements. It's not about disconnecting from anything. It's about connection. It's about connection to the elements around me. It's about appreciating every single element, because every single element is working for me and with me. Now, I don't like to think of things as always working for me. I like to think that we're working together in harmony. So for me, off-grid living is about that. It's not living constantly taking from the grid. It's living in appreciation. It's living in appreciation of the sun giving me electricity. It's living in appreciation of the rain. Even here in West Wales, we get a lot of it. But appreciation of the rain, that we can collect it to water our crops, to water us. It's living in appreciation for every element, because every element offers us a form of energy. So I wanted to share with you that. A couple of years ago, it was probably quite a few years ago, you know how years go by, A dear friend of mine, Bridget Strawbridge Howard, she completed on the weekend, I think it was on a Sunday if I remember rightly, it was called, she used to call it Off-Grid Sunday. And she was living in a house on the grid, but she would completely switch off electricity, switch off everything and live off-grid every Sunday. And she said that, I remember her saying how that made her feel connected more. And it's really interesting when you talk to people that have disconnected from the grid, how it makes them more connected. So what I'm inviting you to do this week is, could you bring in an off-grid day to your life, or an off-grid evening, and start to get really appreciative of things you might take for granted at a flick of a switch? Or maybe you can install solar panels. Before, this is just 500 watts. We got second hand, but even before this, we got gifted by some dear friends of ours at Christmas time, a really small panel that was enough for one light and one USB connection in our caravan to charge our mobile phones. It may be you start something small, but just think about where it all comes from. Is there any way you can connect your life back in to the elements? Maybe, as I said, you bring in Off-Grid Sunday. Maybe Bridget carries on inspiring you and you create Off-Grid Sunday into your life. But I just wanted to share that with you. The reason I live off-grid isn't to disconnect, it's to connect. To connect to the biggest source of all, the elements and the earth. If you've enjoyed this video, then don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, and you can also head on over to my website selenawalker.earth and sign up to my free weekly newsletter, where I share with you ways on how you can create a healthy body, healthy mind and healthy planet. I'll see you soon.